It started as a dare. Our channel had seen everything: abandoned schools, forgotten factories, even an old mine shaft that nearly caved in on us. But Blackford Asylum wasn't just another crumbling building on our list. Its name carried weight. The kind of weight that made locals go quiet the second you brought it up. They said it was cursed, that the last patient never left, that sometimes, if you stood close enough, you could hear them breathing in the dark. We didn't believe any of it. Not really. The sun was almost gone when we parked the car 100 yards from the gate. The asylum stood ahead like a shadow eating the last of the daylight, its windows black and hollow. Rusted iron fencing curled upward like claws, topped with barbed wire that sagged under years of neglect. A single chain dangled from the gate, swinging even though there was no wind. I glanced at my friend, camera already in his hand. "You ready for this?" I asked. He smirked, but his eyes didn't match the smile. We stepped forward. The gravel under our shoes crunched louder than it should have, like the sound didn't just carry, it echoed. Somewhere deep inside the building, a metal door slammed. The noise was so sharp and sudden that we froze. There was no one else here. Or, at least, there shouldn't have been. As we pushed the gates open, the air changed. It was colder here, heavy in a way that made it hard to breathe, as if the entire place had been holding its breath for years, and we had just let it out. We were barely 10 minutes inside when the beam of my flashlight caught something at the far end of the corridor. At first, I thought it was just another broken doorway, but then it moved, just enough to catch the light. A man, tall, too thin, his shoulders hunched beneath a faded, dust-caked coat. His pants were torn at the knees, fabric hanging in ribbons. He stood with his back to us, his face turned toward the wall, as if studying something invisible. My pulse jumped. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. "Hey, you okay down there?" Nothing. Not a twitch. The silence that followed wasn't just quiet, it was suffocating. Even the faint hum of the wind outside seemed to die here. My friend raised his light, and that's when I saw it, his head. It wasn't quite right. His neck was bent at a sharp, unnatural angle, like the muscles had forgotten where they were supposed to hold him. Slowly, painfully slow, he tilted it further toward us, just enough for the light to graze the side of his jaw. His skin looked gray in the beam, stretched tight over bone, lips drawn thin and cracked. We called out again, this time louder, the sound bouncing down the hall in jagged echoes. He still didn't turn. My friend gave me that we should leave look, but my feet wouldn't move. Something about him felt wrong in a way I couldn't name. Like we weren't looking at someone who belonged here, or anywhere. Then, without warning, he stepped forward into the next hallway and was gone. No sound of footsteps. No shuffle of clothing. Just gone. We stood frozen, listening. That's when we realized the hallway ahead smelled faintly of wet earth, and the air had grown cold enough to see our breath. We exchanged a quick glance, the kind you give when both people are thinking the same impossible thought. Did you see that too? The man was gliding away from us, his gait unnervingly smooth, as though each step was more a suggestion than a movement. I kept the camera trained on him, zooming in, but no matter how steady I tried to keep my hands, the picture seemed to shiver, like the lens itself didn't want to look at him. We followed at a careful distance, the silence thick except for the occasional drip of water somewhere deep in the building. But there was one sound missing, the scuff of shoes on the dusty tile. He moved, yet left nothing behind, not even the faintest crunch. Every time we turned a corner, he was already further ahead than he should have been, like the space between us was bending in his favor. Then he stopped, not abruptly, just gradually slowing, until he was facing a door on the left. Faded paint peeled from the wood in long curls, and across it, in stenciled black letters, Ward C, closed. We both knew this section was supposed to be sealed. In the maps we'd seen, Ward C hadn't been used in decades. The door was chained shut from the outside, thick links crisscrossing the frame, a heavy padlock dangling from the middle. I was about to whisper, "No way he's getting through that," when my breath caught. He didn't touch the chain, didn't even pause. He just slipped through. No creak of hinges, no clink of metal. His entire body passing into the space beyond, as if the door and chains weren't there at all. I felt my grip tighten on the camera. My friend took a half step forward, but I instinctively held him back. Because, from the other side of the chain door, somewhere deep in Ward C, we heard something else. A voice. Low, steady, and speaking words I couldn't understand. We circled the hallways until we found a door with its hinges rusted to dust. It groaned as we pushed it open, and the sound seemed to echo forever. The moment we stepped inside Ward C, the smell hit us, wet paper, mildew, and something sharper underneath, like old blood baked into wood. The light from our flashlights swept across peeling paint, gurneys overturned in the hall, and walls that seemed to sweat in the damp. Somewhere in the distance, water dripped in a slow, steady rhythm. Then we found it. A room that made both of us stop dead in the doorway. Every inch of it was covered in photographs. Not just taped to the walls, but dangling from strings crisscrossing the ceiling, fluttering gently in the stale air. Some were yellowed and curling at the edges, others stark and recent, their glossy surfaces still catching the light. We stepped inside, careful not to bump the strings, though the photos swayed as if we'd brushed past them anyway. The images were all the same man. Him. In some, his clothes were different, his hair darker or shorter, but the gaunt face, the deep-set eyes, and that faint, unnatural tilt of the head were unmistakable. The dates were what froze my blood. Handwritten in faded ink or smeared marker. Some were from the 1960s. Others from the 80s. The most recent, only a few months ago. And yet, in every single one, he hadn't aged a day. I felt the urge to whisper, though I didn't know why. This isn't possible. My friend didn't answer. He was staring at one particular photograph tacked to the center of the far wall. It was us, standing in the hallway outside, pointing our flashlights toward the man. The picture was sharp, like it had been taken only minutes ago. Behind us, somewhere deep in the ward, a footstep echoed. We didn't move. We didn't breathe. That footstep hadn't been a creak of the building or the shuffle of a rat. It was heavier, deliberate. I slowly turned my flashlight toward the hallway, my hand trembling so badly the beam jittered across the peeling walls. At first, there was nothing, just the yawning black of Ward C's corridor. Then he stepped into the light. The man. Only now he wasn't standing stiffly or staring at the wall. He was facing us. Up close, his face looked wrong. The skin was stretched too tightly over his cheekbones, as if it had dried and shrunk. His eyes were pale, cloudy, like milk swirling in water, but they locked onto mine with a weight that made my stomach drop. He didn't blink. He didn't breathe. My friend tried to speak, but it came out as a broken whisper. How did you? The man's head tilted again, that unnatural bend in his neck deepening until it looked like the bones might snap. He took a step forward, but his feet didn't seem to push off the ground. It was more like the air carried him. The strings of photos began to sway around us, their soft rustling growing louder, faster, until it sounded like 100 whispers crowding the room. My light flickered, and for a fraction of a second, his face was inches from mine. I stumbled back, knocking into my friend, and we both bolted into the hall, except the hall wasn't the same anymore. The peeling walls were gone. Instead, the corridor stretched endlessly in both directions, lined with doorways that all looked exactly alike. Behind us, the whispering stopped. And then in the silence, his voice, low, hoarse, and close to my ear. You're next. We ran. No plan, no sense of direction. Just the pounding of our shoes against the warped floorboards and the echo of those two words repeating in my head. You're next. The flashlight beam darted wildly, catching glimpses of doorways that all led into the same room. We tried one empty, another identical. Each one smelled of damp rot, each one lit by the faint, sour glow of a single swinging bulb. The whispers returned, weaving through the air like smoke. Only now, they weren't coming from behind us. They were coming from everywhere. My friend grabbed my arm. This way. We tore around a corner, only to skid to a stop. The corridor ended in a wall of photographs, thousands of them stacked so thick you couldn't see the paint beneath. All of them were of us. In some, we were standing still, looking confused. In others, we were running, just like now. But the newest ones, they showed the man right behind us. The light above us sputtered, plunging everything into momentary darkness. When it came back on, he was standing in the middle of the hallway, blocking the way we'd come. Only now his mouth was open. Too wide. Far too wide. The sound that came out wasn't human. It was a deep, bone-rattling rumble, like the building itself was groaning in pain. The floor vibrated beneath us, dust falling from the ceiling in choking clouds. We backed up against a wall of photos, and I could swear the images were warm, like they'd just been printed. The air grew heavier with every breath, and for the first time, I realized the asylum wasn't just a building. It was alive, and it wanted us inside it. My friend yanked a rusted fire door open, and we sprinted through, slamming it behind us. The noise echoed like a gunshot, but for the first time since entering Ward C, there was silence. A narrow staircase led down into darkness. Each step groaned under our weight, but we kept going until a faint glow appeared below, a pale rectangle of light. An exit sign. It was glowing red through the dust like a beacon. We reached the bottom, stumbling into a corridor lined with broken lockers and water-stained tiles. The heavy scent of mildew mixed with something fresher, cold night air. There it was, the back door. Through its cracked window, I saw the overgrown lawn, the moonlight, the rusted fence we'd slipped through hours ago. Relief hit, so hard my knees almost buckled. We sprinted. My friend grabbed the handle, twisting, pulling, nothing. It didn't move. I slammed into it with my shoulder. The glass rattled, but didn't break. That's when I noticed the lock wasn't jammed. It was welded shut. I turned back toward my friend and froze. The corridor behind us had changed. The lockers were gone. The tiles were gone. In their place was the photo room from Ward C, stretching on forever. Hundreds of strings hung from the ceiling, each holding a fresh photograph of us, standing exactly where we were now. And between the rows, the man was walking toward us. Slow, steady, smiling for the first time. It was worse than his stare. Much worse. He didn't rush. He didn't need to. Every step he took seemed to make the room grow longer. The strings of photographs swaying gently as if a breeze moved through them, though the air here was dead still. We backed away, our shoulders brushing the hanging photos. The images were warm again, fresh. The man stopped a few feet away. His smile didn't fade, but his eyes, dark, endless, studied us like we were specimens in a jar. Then he raised a hand and pointed. At first, I thought he was pointing at me. But no, his finger was aimed slightly above my head. I followed the gesture and saw it, another photograph swaying on its string. It was me, not as I was now, but lying on the floor, eyes closed, mouth slightly open, skin pale. My friend grabbed my arm. Don't look at them, just run. We tore through the rows, shoving the strings aside, the photos brushing against our faces like dry leaves. But no matter which way we turned, there were more rows, more photographs, and each step made the faces in them grow colder, more lifeless. I saw myself again, this time with my friend beside me. Both of us sprawled in the hallway like discarded dolls. And then, the strangest thing. From somewhere behind us came the sound of a camera shutter. Click, click, click. The rows ended. We were back in the long corridor where we'd first seen him. Only now it wasn't abandoned. The walls were lined with photographs of hundreds of people, smiling, laughing, crying, all captured in moments before something took them. We were at the center of the newest ones. The man stepped past us, gently hanging 2 photographs on an empty hook. Our photographs. He didn't even look back as he walked away, melting into the shadows at the far end. The lights flickered. When they came back on, we were gone from the hallway. Only the photos remained. And the asylum waited.